The Ukhamba Giving event is one of the flagship initiatives of the Southern Africa Trust under the Change Forever campaign, which essentially is a platform for promoting local giving and promoting local communities, providing answers to local problems.
Most people didn't understand what is meant by giving and the word Ukhamba, so I had to explain in details what Ukhamba entails and also what philanthropy entails.
If you're trying to look at what Ukhamba means for the community and for social cohesion, I think we can look at the symbolism of the Ukhamba itself, which is a traditional pot, a clay pot, known by different names in different African cultures and communities. But at the heart of it, it is an instrument where communities either drink from something, so when you're having a ceremony, everybody enjoys a traditional brew from that same Ukhamba pot. At the same time, you can also use the Ukhamba pot as a common dish for giving. So if there is a round of donations, people can also actually deposit their donations in a particular ceremony inside the Ukhamba. So I think that this is an instrument for sharing, for giving, for communities coming together to address problems.
So Ukhamba 2017 was a continuation of such. However, this year the difference was that instead of having a single person heading it, we decided to come together as a group of 5 or 6 volunteers and work together to see how we could pool our resources, pool our knowledge, and actually have an event that was a success. So having volunteered and come together and brought all our knowledge together, we allocated tasks, we defined clearly the theme, and this year we decided we were going to support women and children. We wanted to amplify the voices of those who had been marginalized and just to counter the negativity that had been happening in society, particularly in South Africa and in other countries across the world, and the gender-based violence. So we decided we would have that as our theme and set out to seek beneficiaries that would fit the criteria, so to speak. The other thing to remember is always that while some projects are presented, the aim of Ukhamba is to provide lasting solutions. So we want projects that once we assist, it's not a handout, it's not a food parcel, but it's actually something that will precipitate change that lasts forever in light of our Change Forever initiative.
My involvement in the event was basically as a keynote address. And how I prepared for it was, I think that as a people, giving is part of who we are. It's something that you don't really actually have to prepare for when you talk about what it means to give. And so for me, it was just taking from the everyday experiences that I've had since I was growing up, looking at the people around me.
I am humbled to have been chosen to perform at this year's Ukhamba event. It was such an honor for me. What I really loved about being involved in this event was that it was an event that was set up to raise funds for people that are doing great work in our community. And as a young person that makes music that touches people's souls all around South Africa, and as a young person that's also doing a lot in my community, I felt really inspired to be a part of the event.
The biggest challenge that I faced during planning for the event is how do you get your own people involved in the event? So we can send invites to people outside, but the biggest challenge is how do you find and how do you motivate the people that are in your own circles, the people that are close to you, your family, your relatives, the people that you know on a personal level to get involved in this kind of event. We know that there tend to be lots and lots of events that you are expected to attend and so forth and so on. But it is the ability to explain the structure and the nature of the event and what some of the benefits are that you can accrue from participating in such events. So the biggest challenge is really about how do you mobilize your own circle of people to really get involved in such an event.
Okay, in planning for the Ukhamba 2017 event, we put together a media relations strategy, and what that did is that it looked into key messages as well as the activities that we thought would best suit the implementation of our task of making sure that people know about the event, and giving them in-depth information regarding when the event was started, who the beneficiaries are, and what kind of work they do. And that also entailed sharing the invite as well as additional information regarding the event with both the media as well as the public.
There were a lot of challenges. They all came with long 15 pages of presentations and a lot of words which they wanted to read. And then they would have completely lost their impact. And so we trained them to make it crispy in 6 minutes, and yes, to shine and really talk on the project.
Okay. The challenges that I faced is that for me it was the first time doing the event. So there were a lot of challenges from how do you communicate properly with the beneficiary, how do you talk with them, how do you sort of don't push everyone, but in a way that they able to feel that we are working on the tight deadline, because we had to prepare it on a tight deadline.
Like any other event, challenges will always be there. You would anticipate to have a huge crowd. The crowd was much better than what we've had in previous events. The challenges that we faced was that the event coincided with a lot of activities that usually happen around the end of the year. Most of the corporates that I was in touch with were having their own events at the same time. So they would have loved to be there, but they couldn't, and it became a choice for them where to be with the trust or to be where they really belong in terms of their work. But what we tried doing in that space was to say that even if they cannot be available, they can recommend people who could come, or at the same time they could pledge, would give out the pledge forms for them to pledge even though they were not there in the event.
My involvement with Ukhamba was in the publicity of the whole campaign. I was responsible for creating the publicity materials that were used both offline and offline, creating the visual designs and circulating them, also checking on how people were taking them up.
It is really about revitalizing the spirit of philanthropy and the spirit of community giving. So my biggest takeaway from this whole event is really learning and continuing to learn about some of the biggest contributions that are made in our own communities that we either are not looking out for, we ourselves are not supporting, or we don't know about. So I think one of the key things is to really, it sends me back to my own community to say, how do I start looking into my community and how do I start making a difference, a sustainable change in my own community?
No matter how things may seem to be difficult, that at the end of the day, we are the privileged ones. And I think that throughout this whole process, the difficulties that we may have thought we were facing were nothing as compared to the difficulties that the beneficiaries of Ukhamba 2017 and before were working to support. I think that for me, meeting the different groups was inspiring, and just seeing them connect with each other on the day and listening to them tell the stories of the work that they do, the challenges that they have to overcome every day, and the joy that comes to the people whose lives they're changing, made it all, worthwhile.